Hello, welcome back. Shout out to Trey. I hope you take this time to get a drink, get cozy, get your thinking cap on. It's raining here, windstorm, and there's cats in heat. And I just got rid of the kittens. Oh, but there's been this guy, Carbon, Tigger's boyfriend. At least he's taking breaks now. He goes away for like a day or so and comes back again. Because that was getting pretty intense. Pretty intense. But that is not what I wanted to talk about at all. I wanted to talk about fucking 1800s. The transportation system of the Niagara region. Oh, yeah, that sounds so exciting, right? Strap in. The Grand River used to be a vital, like, a major vein. And then they blocked it with this waterfall thing. And I'm not sure when they did that, but totally killed all the towns all along the river. And it was all native land. It kind of still mostly not is. I mean, I'm sure they like to think that it is, but to be honest, we just keep creeping further and further. What's gotta happen is we gotta get rid of these the way we do farming, but I'm talking about transportation right now, that's for sure. They totally killed their way of trade because the river goes from the north shore of Lake Erie all the way up, I think, past Barrie, like up north, 2.5 hours, maybe more, and that's driving on our highways today. And then they built this canal that pretty much cut them off completely. Like, Port Maitland and shit was thriving. It could have grown really big if they didn't have that blockage that is now a sewer treatment plant. Isn't that great? There used to be like docks and marshes and, beautiful things. And so the natives owned both sides of the river. They had some like primo land to do farming, and they farmed like on the edges of trees and allowing they had like three sister systems and all that allowed all the vegetables and shit that looks completely different than what they do now. I mean, some of these things that we eat now don't even exist, so how is our body made to process it? Anyway, and they cut this canal, cutting off that area completely and bringing it all the way to Port Colborne. And they have a ceremony every year, a top hat ceremony celebrating this fucking shit. Now, I grew up in Thorold, and the people in Thorold always, we hated the Kiefers. They were obnoxious, always fighting, um, just, waving their dicks around and shit. And he did a lot of chatting and backhanded shit with other soldiers and officers of the British Army. People of Thorold didn't want the canal built, completely against it. None of them wanted it. Even I only have like two generations in my family, and they can't remember why. They just know that they hated the idea. And it wasn't until Google Earth that I figured out why. Thorold used to have a waterfall there. There was rapids just before the waterfall. And they built the beaver board right at the pinnacle, the like center of the rapids. And Lake Gibson and Gypsy Lake used to be one lake. Putting a canal created the butt. We used to swim there. We used to call it the butts. We didn't even know why it was called the butts. But now we know why, because that's what you call an end when you put a dramatic straight end to a straight. So Kiefer was all for, this canal, and he had high stakes in it, and he did a lot of advertising in it. And the people of Thorold were against it and were pushing back. They didn't want to lose their waterfall. So you have journalists, their houses and their printing shops being torched at this time. And Kiefer knows the Seacords, and the Seacords have, well, he's a family of, comes from a military family, and she comes from a military family. Her father owns a shop, which I think she took over before moving to Chippewa. So the whole neighborhood she provided for, yet she ran through the mud. And the route she took, why didn't she go up to Queens? She lived in Queenston. Why didn't you just go up the mountain and go straight across the mountain instead of staying below and going through St. Catharines to come around to go back to Thorold? I mean, her route doesn't make sense. And speaking of routes, what route did the Army take to get to the White House? But you can't find it. Why not? These people are primo navigators. They've been going back and forth across the ocean. I mean, they had a system with selling beavers and all that shit. They all know the area. They all had guides and shit. So how come, what route did they take? How come we don't have that information? All this transportation being taken away from, and beauty being taken away from the majority just so the minority can make money off of trade.